Our next speaker, Kristin Becker, was born and raised in the shadow of Longs Peak here in lovely Longmont, Colorado. I like that you put that in there, okay? She left briefly to attend NYU only to return to finish college at CU. She has, since graduating from CU in 2007, she's been pursuing life adventures, including this bicycle trip we're about to see, and backpacking through Chile, Argentina. Recent life experiences have reawakened her passion for psychology, and she currently spends much of her free time volunteering with the Mental Health Partners and the Windhorse Community Service. You can find her working at Sushi Leo in town, peddling delicious free sushi. And once again, she brought samples. Okay, you didn't. Jeez. It's not like we're asking for the world. But at this time, let's give Kristin a really warm welcome. And I think she has something to share with us.
I didn't get my 20 seconds. Can we go back to the opening slide? Okay. Well, this is Team Krusty. It was my partner at the time, Rusty, and myself. So we were Team Krusty, which pretty much describes our cycle of how we traveled. We rode basically steel bikes, about 40 miles every day on average. There were lots of days we rode less than that, and there was a couple of days we rode more. One day we rode 100. We started our cycling trip in Anchorage, Alaska, and we went to Tijuana, Mexico for a taco. So we went all the way through Alaska and Canada, and then down the west coast. As you can see, the pink star is where we started a ferry trip, and we went to several different islands off the coast of Alaska. And then the green star is where we got back onto mainland. We had to go about 450 miles inland to catch a road going south. So we did not lose any miles that way. A question that plagued me whilst cycling on this trip, and many people ask me, is why did we do it? And we didn't have like a purpose of raising money. We had thought about doing that, but logistically it just didn't happen. So we were really just doing it. But we came up with reasons along the way. One of them is people think you're cool, even though you're basically a bum with a bicycle. Like, you're homeless, you're making all of your food over a little fire, you know, we're wearing the same clothes every day, you generally smell bad. But people think you're cool, and they like buy you lunch and stuff, and it's really great. Along the way, we met some really awesome people. The people in this corner, we did our 100-mile day with. They were like, go get 'em people. This is Steven. He lives up in Anchorage, and he traveled with us for a while. And then Megs and Jules are at the top, and they went from Alaska all the way to the southern tip of Chile. So they're pretty kick-ass. So a big reason to do a cycling trip, and why we chose to do a cycling trip versus a different type of travel, is basically that you can do it cheaply enough and slowly enough to really enjoy yourself. All the travel money comes out of your beer money if you take a bus. So if you're on a bicycle, everything can go toward beer and food. And you allow yourself a lot of freedom. So if you feel like traveling 15 miles one day, you do, and you set up your tent and you sleep there. And if you feel like going 60 miles, you can do that. And you can meet someone in a bar and they can offer you their bed, which happened to us several times. Another great reason to do a cycling trip is that you can eat and drink whatever you want because you're riding your bike every single day. So if you want to have like a pizza for dinner, you can have a pizza for dinner. And we did like a side brewery tour. So we were able to sample a lot of the beers along the West Coast, which is, I'm a beer connoisseur myself, and so that was one of the greatest parts of the trip. So basically the ability to go where you want. This is Haynes Pass. This is very difficult to get to. If you can get to Haynes on a ferry, but then you don't have a car. You can drive there from Whitehorse, but it takes about 2 days. So another reason to do a bike trip is to learn some valuable life lessons. You know, you spend a lot of time like this, looking at asphalt, and ideas pop into your head about things that you could do and ways you could be. And then the other thing is that you're doing the same thing every day. You're waking up, packing up your tent, putting it on your bike. The best way to make a bike not fun is to put about 40 pounds on it and try to ride it. It makes it not so much fun. But attitude is everything in life and on a cycling trip especially. You can, like, there were times, especially about like San Francisco area, where like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, and it really affected how much fun we were having. We also learned the road will provide. We learned to not stress. Like, you show up in a town that you've never been in, that's not on the map. You go to the local watering hole and you ask someone, hey, do you know of a good place to camp? And sometimes they're like, yeah, behind the school. And sometimes they're like, yeah, my backyard. And sometimes they're like, yeah, you can sleep in my bed and I'll sleep on the couch. Like, I think you're awesome. So that's really cool. And then we also just learned sometimes the obstacle is the path. This is me. We decided to go over the mountains instead of around the mountains. So this is like a 15% grade road. This road, you can see this speck is rusty up in the distance. This is Polychrome Pass in Denali National Park. It was one of the biggest hills I had ever been on in my entire life. And just that experience of like pushing my personal boundaries changed the way I thought about myself. And the whole trip was like learning to be myself, because it was easy to compare myself to other cyclists. This man we met in Alaska, he built his own trailer. He carried like 100 pounds of stuff plus his dog, and he had lung cancer. So, but you know, he just was himself, he did his own thing. And so learning those lessons gave us the opportunity to really reevaluate kind of who we were, and we didn't, I mean, it's taken years for me to decompress from this trip. It took about, about a year and a half to save up for it, 5 months to spend all that money and get back to broke, and about 2 years to recover from the trip. But I look back on it now, and I look back on the, like, this isn't even our picture. We were not good about taking pictures, so that's why some of the pictures are like a little blurry. But, I learned like the best thing about cycling and the best thing about life is like when you struggle and struggle and struggle to get up that hill, on the other side, it goes down. And at least on a bicycle, you can kind of just coast for a little bit and like enjoy that pleasure. So I will like to leave with a warning. Post-cycling strip disorder is very real and common malady. So, overeating is eating second breakfast even when you get home, pining for hard sleeping surfaces, and of course, delivering long, boring speeches on the greatness of cycling trips. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristin. That was great. My wife and I once bought a tandem. And we thought, won't that be fun? We'll take these bike trips. So we used to do this bike trip with friends. We would leave from Pueblo, Colorado, ride down I-25, go through Colorado City, spend the night at Lake San Isabel. It was about 140 miles. And it was really fun when we were on the flat ground. But one time when we were going up to San Isabel, which was a heck of a climb, I noticed my wife was in the back taking pictures and making sandwiches. Needless to say, after that trip, we sold the tandem. I mean, fun is fun, but biking, how many of you bike? I mean, we're in a perfect place for biking and that, so it's great. And my understanding is we'll be getting our bike trails along the river back soon. So hang in there.